Good morning and welcome. I'm Patricia Grover, and I'm the field commander for the New York State Police, and I'd like to thank all of you for being here today. I'd like to have a special welcome as an illustration of their continued support for public safety and highway safety in New York State. I'd like to welcome Senator Carl Marcelino, Assemblymember Ed Hennessy, and County Executive Ed Mangano. Governor Andrew Cuomo has proven that keeping motorists and pedestrians safe on New York's roadways is a top priority. Just a few weeks ago, he directed DMV to raise the penalty for texting while driving from a 3-point violation to a 5-point violation. And on July 1st, the governor signed a new law which strengthened penalties for texting while driving for our youngest and newest drivers. The new law brings penalties for probationary and junior license holders in line with penalties for our most serious offenses, including speeding and reckless driving. All drivers, particularly our young drivers, need to realize that the road is no place for this dangerous habit, and the penalties for breaking the law are serious. With these new laws and regulations in place, it is our turn as law enforcement to put those laws into action, and this is a responsibility we take very seriously. This afternoon, we are announcing that in addition to our ongoing traffic safety efforts, the governor has directed additional funding to the state police to focus on texting and distracted driving behaviors. The state police will have a visibly increased presence on the road with more troopers patrolling the roadways in marked state police vehicles, and to specifically combat texting while driving, a less obvious presence will be had through our use of unmarked vehicles like the SUVs you see here behind me. These vehicles have proven to be an extremely effective law enforcement tool in identifying drivers who are illegally using handheld devices while driving. Since the July 4th weekend, the state police issued more than 2,000 tickets for distracted driving, and that's only in the first 10 days of our heightened enforcement. And I assure you that kind of enforcement is going to continue. The undercover vehicles you see here have a much higher platform than your average car, and this allows us and our officers to be able to see into the car without being detected. As you can see, there are no exterior markings, and we have them in a variety of colors to further help them blend in with the rest of traffic. And all are equipped with high-intensity hidden lighting systems. So as the summer travel season continues, many more motorists will be taking to New York State's highways, and the chances of accidents continue to rise. The state police will be continuing our effective enforcement through additional checkpoints, and will be stepping up the enforcement for traditional traffic hazards, including impaired driving, seat belts, child safety restraints, speeding, and underage drinking. This increased enforcement will provide additional protection for motorists and help to prevent avoidable accidents from happening. Vehicle, motorcycle, and pedestrian safety is and always will be a state police priority. I'd like to thank you, and now I'd like to introduce Ed Mangano.
Oops. Oh, thank you. It's a pleasure to join with you this morning, and thank you, Deputy Superintendent Field Commander Gruber. I want to begin by thanking Governor Cuomo for his efforts in taking on this very important initiative. To support Governor Cuomo's efforts, Nassau County Police will step up enforcement of no texting while driving. Intensified patrols will enforce and warn motorists in Nassau County to cease and desist texting while driving. Recent statistics are alarming. 75% of teenagers believe texting while driving is a common occurrence. And it's even more alarming that over 100,000 texting while driving accidents occurred on roadways across the nation last year. I ask that residents join Governor Cuomo and myself in taking the pledge never to text and drive. Now I'd like to introduce Assemblyman Ed Hennessy. Thank you very much.
Good morning. It was my honor to carry this legislation in the New York State Assembly and support the governor's public safety initiative and no texting while driving. I brought my 18-year-old son with me today. He drove me here today, and it was just a great example. This is an issue that hits our house every day. Behind this 18-year-old, I have a 14-year-old, so this is an issue that's conscious in our household every day. And I'm very proud of the governor, and to be a member of the New York State Legislature is my honor to carry this legislation through the New York State Assembly. Thank you.
Good morning. It's still morning. I'm State Senator Cuomo, and I carried the message in the New York State Senate. What's so difficult about this? I don't understand the problem. I really don't. Why is it so impossible? Why is it so difficult? Why is it so hard to get this message across to people? Every one of us came here today, by car probably, or bus or whatever, but if you were on the road, I guarantee you saw someone with a phone in his hand or someone texting while driving. You did, you saw it, and it's a crime. It's wrong. 3,000 young people a year between the ages of 17 and 25 die on the roads while texting while driving. 305,000 are injured. That kind of carnage has got to stop. That kind of carnage has got to stop. No texting while driving will save lives. The governor gets it. The governor gets it, thank God he does, and thank God he's willing to put the state troopers and the money of the state of New York and the power of the state of New York and the power of the governor's office behind this to make sure that this terrible, terrible crime stops. People think it's no big deal. It is. People are dying. Our children are dying, and we've got to stop it. There's no other way to do it but to impress upon them no texting while driving. You got to do that. And if you have children at home, grandchildren at home, make sure they understand it. Make sure they get the message, because tragedy occurs if they don't. So, ladies and gentlemen, please join me. Please join the governor. Please join the assemblyman. This is unanimous. This is bipartisan. This is not a Democrat issue, a Republican issue. This is a people issue. This is a life-saving issue. We all have to become part of the team. You see somebody texting, give them one of these. Not the other way, not the other finger, but give them one of these. Make sure they know that it's an inappropriate behavior and an inappropriate action. No texting while driving. Ladies and gentlemen, God bless you, and go out there and enforce the law, please. Liz Torres is our next speaker. Thank you. Oh, it's Karen Torres.
That's okay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Karen Torres, and I am here today to share a personal story with you. On March 17, 2006, I received a phone call that has changed my life forever. It was 11:01 a.m. I received a call from the Department of Transportation dispatcher, my father's employer, that my father was hit by a truck on Sunrise Highway. You can't imagine, unless you've ever received a call like that. My body went into complete shock, not knowing what the status of my father's health was. My husband and I got to the hospital, and as I pulled into the emergency room, I could see an ambulance and 3 Suffolk cop cars, and my heart sank. And I walked into the emergency room, and there was a nurse waiting for me. And she said, "Are you Patrick's daughter?" And I said, "Yes." And she put her arm around me, and I just started to scream, "Oh my God, my father's dead. My father's dead." My father died because somebody took their eyes off the road for 2 seconds. My father, while working with his crew on the highway to make the roadways a better, safer place for us, filling in potholes, a cement truck driver, not only was he speeding in the work zone, taking his eyes off the road for 2 seconds, he barreled into the work zone and he killed my father. The pain of losing my father in such a horrific way never goes away. Doesn't matter that it's 7 years. To me, it feels like I got that phone call 7 seconds ago. The pain of losing my father in such a horrible, horrific way, it just never goes away. Since my father's death, I have become a big advocate against distracted driving. I've also become a public speaker. I've been going around to high schools, speaking to driver's ed classes. I feel it's such an important time as young drivers because getting to young drivers because this is when they're going to pick up their good habits of driving and their bad habits. And I always hope that by me sharing my father's tragic last day, that they understand that by taking their eyes off the road for just 2 seconds, you can kill someone. The driver of that cement truck was not a young driver. He was actually a retired New York City fireman. So this man spent his entire career saving lives. That's what he did. But just that dumb mistake. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what a great driver you are. What matters is the 2, 3, 4, 5 seconds that you take your eyes off the road is what really matters. I can't think of a better way of honoring my father than by going around and sharing his story. I have spoken to thousands of teens across Long Island. I think the most sad, let me start over. I always ask the class, how many of your parents text and drive? And what's scary is that almost half the class raises their hand. What are we teaching our children? Do we not understand that they are in our driving school for the first 16 years of their lives? They have to learn from us. My daughter's going to be driving in less than 2 months, and let me tell you, I'm scared to death because that phone is glued to her side. 1 month last year, she had over 19,000 text messages in 1 month. So do I get it? Yeah, I get it. I understand that they wanted, this is the way they communicate, but they have to understand that there's a right time to use your phone and there's a wrong time, and we can't do it when we're driving. As parents, we can't say, do what I say, not as I do. You have to go by example. People are losing their lives. It's something that is so preventable. These accidents should not be happening. My father should be here. You know where I should be here instead of being here today? I should be out fishing with my father. He was getting ready to retire. He was going to retire in 7 months. My dad's birthday was just the day before. I had just spoke with him on the phone, and I just wished him a happy birthday, and we were making plans for him to come over that Sunday to celebrate. And you know where I was Sunday? I was at his wake. My dad should be here. What Governor Cuomo is doing is so important because it affects everyone, not just the young drivers, but all drivers. By putting in place tougher laws, it sends a clear message, not only to the young, inexperienced drivers, but to all of us, that you cannot text and drive. You cannot use your cell phone when you're driving, period. Increasing our law enforcement presence on the roads is an important part of this mission to stop distracted driving. So I thank our state troopers for their hard work in guarding our highways and roads. Finally, thank you, Governor, for taking these actions because they will save lives. And I can't think of a better way of honoring my father than by going around and sharing his story with the hopes that I'm doing the same. I'm just a mother who really cares and a daughter who really loved her dad. And now I am pleased to welcome the Governor of the great state of New York, Andrew Cuomo.
Thank you. Well, good afternoon, good morning to all of you. First, to Colonel Grober and the State Police, I want to thank you very much for not just your attendance today and not just for your participation in this effort, but for all the good work the State Police do every day. Let's join me in giving them a round of applause. To County Executive Ed Mangano and the Nassau Police Department, thank you very much for joining with us in this important effort. The state police have been focusing on this statewide. With your partnership here in Nassau County, we're going to make a real difference. Thank you very much. County Executive Ed Mangano. To Assemblyman Ed Hennessy and Senator Carl Marcellino, thank you for passing this law. There are certain laws that can literally save lives. I believe this law is going to literally save lives, and we want to thank the Assemblyman and the Senator very much for their advocacy and their passion and for getting it done and for passing the law. Senator Carl Marcellino, Assemblyman Ed Hennessy, thank you very much. I'd also like to acknowledge Senator Kemp Hannon, who is here, who voted for the law. Thank you very much, Senator, for being here. To Karen Torres, Karen, thank you for taking your pain. Thank you for taking that negative energy and turning it into a positive, and for all the good work you do and honoring your father's legacy and memory in a very positive way. Karen Torres. I think the message is very clear. It's simple. This device should say this can email, it can text, and it can kill you. or it can kill someone else if used in the wrong place and the wrong time. We have a crisis of distracted driving. It's getting worse. It's not getting better. 1 out of 5 accidents today are caused by distracted driving, texting, cell phone use, etc. 3 times more accidents than we had just 7 years ago. A 143% increase in the number of fatalities and injuries caused by distracted driving. So it's a demographic wave that is crashing on society. And it is worse for young people. 43% of the teens admit to texting while driving. 43% admit to texting while driving. My guess is there are some who do it who don't admit that they actually do it. And it is a bad combination, because when you are a young driver, you are an inexperienced driver. I don't care how good your eye-hand coordination is, how young, how good you think you are at it, you're inexperienced. And there are some things in life that experience matters, and driving is one of them. And when you put inexperience together with inattention at the wheel, that is a dangerous combination. That is a toxic combination. And it is only 2 seconds, as you heard from Karen. 3 seconds. You just look down for an instant, and that is it. You could have traveled a football field in 2 seconds. I have 2 18-year-olds at home, so like Karen, I'm dealing with this up close and personal. It is cultural for young people. They grow up connected by an umbilical cord to an electronic device. It's unlike anything any generation has dealt with before. It's always in their hand, that constant communication, the frequency. God forbid you don't respond to a text in 10 seconds, the world is probably going to stop, or some kind of terrible catastrophe will befall you, or society will forget that you existed if you didn't respond in the requisite amount of time, you know. And when they get in the car, it doesn't change. It doesn't change. It beeps, it buzzes, it goes off, and every response says, you have to look at it, you have to look at it. What are you missing? What are you missing? I understand the culture and the connection. And I understand the confidence of youth, 18 years old. You know all the answers at 18 years old. You just don't know all the questions at 18 years old. But it'll take you a few more years to figure that out. Sometimes society says, sometimes a parent says, this is the way it is. Maybe you don't understand it, maybe you don't appreciate it, maybe you don't agree, but this is the way it is. And that's what we're saying to young people today. That's what we're saying to all drivers, but especially young people. The law says don't text while driving. That is the law. Agree with it, disagree with it, that is the law. Senator Carl Marcelino is exactly right. Democrats, Republicans, that is the law. This is a societal issue. And we've increased the penalties to make the point more emphatically. 5 points for texting while driving. 5 points on your license is a very big deal. It's the same number of points as a very high-level speeding ticket, reckless driving. So it makes a significant difference on your license. It can make a significant difference on your insurance payment. It can cost you money. It could cost you your license. For teens, for young drivers, if you get caught texting while driving and you're in the probationary period, you're going to have your license suspended. Why? Because we want to make the point very early on, very clearly, to young drivers, don't even think about texting while driving. And that's why the Assemblyman and the Senator have changed the penalty on the law. Now, to do this, we're going to have to change behavior. Changing behavior is very, very hard. It's very hard personally to change your own behavior, let alone the collective's behavior. The good news is we've done it before. We've done it in the same genre. We've done it when it comes to drinking and driving. Drinking and driving was societally, culturally, much more common at one time than it is today. It was very common for people to go to a restaurant and have a couple of glasses of wine and get in the car and drive home. It was very common for people to go out to a bar, to a nightclub, and have a couple of drinks and drive home. When I was learning to drive, there was no such thing as a designated driver. The concept didn't really exist. If it did, I never heard about it. But we changed behavior. How? Education, peer pressure, modeling, parents modeling, and the law and the enforcement. When you have a drink and you're on the way home and you see a checkpoint, boy, you get the message loud and clear. The enforcement of the law. We did it when it comes to seatbelt use. Young people can't imagine this, but at one time nobody wore a seatbelt. They were in the cars, the seatbelts, but they just got stuck in the crevices and nobody ever used the seatbelt. 1983-ish, early 80s, New York State was the first state to pass the seatbelt law. Why would I remember that trivial fact? Who was the governor in the early 80s? That's why I remember, Governor Mario Cuomo. My father made me remember. We passed the first seatbelt law, and it was, boy, you would have thought it was catastrophic. People were all sorts of upset about the seatbelt law. It's infringement of government is telling me what to do, my liberty, I have liberty and domain in my car, and who the long arm of government is coming into my car, and all sorts of disaster scenarios of what would happen if you wore a seatbelt. What happens if you drive into a river and the car is sinking, but you have your seatbelt on, and you can't get out because of your seatbelt, and the seatbelt is going to cause a lot of drownings. People couldn't breathe with the seatbelt. It was wrinkling my clothing, all sorts of reasons not to wear the seatbelt. Now, you get in the car, you just put that seatbelt on, especially young people. They don't even remember not wearing the seatbelt. But you changed behavior. We have to change behavior when it comes to this. We have to change behavior. It's education. It's part of what we're doing today. It is modeling. My daughter says to me, "Oh, Dad, everyone does it. Everyone does it." First of all, I don't care that everyone does it. It is still stupid to use a word. It is a stupid behavior, and it is a reckless behavior, and it endangers your life, and it endangers the lives of others. It endangers the lives of others. It endangered Karen's father. And you have no right to do that. You have no right to do that. You want to be reckless, foolish with your own life? You have no right to be reckless and foolish with someone else's. So everyone does it. Parents have to model the appropriate behavior for their children. Peer pressure. You get in the car with someone who's texting, that is just as dangerous as getting in the car with somebody who's drinking. And you know how peer pressure changed? And whoever would have a drink and get in the car, that is an uncool person, and you don't want to be around that person. Anyone who is texting and driving, that is an uncool person. I love Senator Carl Marcelino's point. You see them, somebody's texting and driving, they're cool, they're not cool. They're reckless. It's ignorant, it's insensitive. Education, modeling, peer pressure, and the law. The law. What really changed behavior with the seatbelts? The law changed behavior. What changed behavior with drinking and driving? The law changed behavior with drinking and driving. And the law is going to change this behavior if it is enforced. And that's why the state police, Nassau County Police Department today, we're focusing on the summer. Why? Because we just have the new law. We want to bring this point home. And during the summer, you have more young drivers on the road. They're back from school. They have more time. They're not in school. And you have more young drivers on the road, and the texting actually goes up. And we want to send that message. And we're going to start in full force this summer. And with the partnership with the Nassau County Police Department, it's going to be even stronger. We are going to work very hard and very diligently at this. Why? Because the better we do at accelerating this change of behavior, we will save more lives. We will save more lives. It's that simple. People die from this. Thousands of people every year. And if we can get this message across, and we can get it across quickly, we will really save lives. And that's a big part of why those of us who are in public service are in public service in the first place, to try to make a difference. And we can make a difference here. And we can save lives, and we can save young lives. And if we save one life, all of the time and energy will have been worth it. I thank all of you very much for taking the time to come out today. Special thanks to the elected officials and to Karen Torres. Thank you.